Welcome back, everyone, to our Inside the Issue special edition of Tucker Carlson tonight. The shooting in Parkland, Florida, produced a wave of anti-gun activism across the country, and it has not been limited to Democratic lawmakers. Ordinary retailers are getting involved as well and imposing their own form of gun control where the law doesn't even require it. Fox's Hillary Vaughn went to investigate this new trend. Here's what she found.
This is Washington, D.C., the day thousands of anti-gun protesters flooded the Capitol streets. Ho, ho! The NRA has got to go! Students joining the March for Our Lives movement, demanding new gun control laws after the mass shooting at Stoneham Douglas High School in Florida.
This is far too much. The fact that we have had all of these mass shootings and that we haven't done anything about it.
I just would like to see this government do something.
I do think change is coming.
But when Congress failed to act, activists found a workaround. Wall Street.
In all honesty, it probably is a workaround because Congress isn't getting much done.
The idea that Wall Street could enforce gun control took off.
Business is sort of in this odd place where it has leverage. Clearly the banks have leverage. The retail organizations have leverage. They showed this in the case of Parkland. People expect them to use that leverage.
Within days, companies acted. Citigroup proclaiming that all of its retail clients would be prohibited from selling firearms to buyers under age 21 and pledging to cut off business with customers who sell bump stocks or high-capacity magazines. Bank of America was next, announcing they would no longer offer loans to manufacturers that make assault rifles. The movement sparking controversy from some in Congress, like Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, who argues big banks going rogue and creating their own gun control policy actually violates federal law. So he introduced a bill blocking banks that blacklist lawful industries from receiving government contracts.
If they got in trouble tomorrow, I guarantee you they would both come to the United States Congress whining for a bailout, asking for taxpayer money. And they wouldn't say, oh, we only want taxpayer money from people who agree with our gun control. They'd take everybody's taxpayer money.
Gun control advocates also won major victories at some of the nation's largest retailers. Dick's Sporting Goods announcing they were cutting AR-15s from their inventory at their Field & Stream stores and stopped selling firearms to people under the age of 21 at all 845 of its stores. Some businesses started targeting the NRA, National Car Rental, Enterprise Car Rental, even Yeti Coolers, nixing discounts for NRA members. The NRA says this blacklisting campaign against them has threatened their day-to-day operations, filing a lawsuit in U.S. District Court in New York after they lost insurance coverage, saying the push to ban the gun group has cost them millions of dollars in damages. But joining the trend has also cost some companies millions. In Georgia, Delta Airlines lost a $38 million tax cut after Delta ditched their NRA discount. In Louisiana, the Bond Commission voted to block Citigroup and Bank of America from financing a $600 million highway construction project after they placed restrictions on gun purchases.
And they should be making sound business decisions that, for their shareholders, not trying to be on the right side of what's popular politically.
Wow, Hillary Vaughn joins us now. Great job. This is with everything going on in the world and the elections and everything. This kind of stuff continues more kind of under the radar. But when it comes to the banks, they've historically used sometimes their power to affect, really to implement discriminatory policies when it comes to lending. The government has stepped in to stop that kind of dynamic. And yet now there are even Republicans suggesting that it's the free market that is causing this. With your investigation, do you agree that this is a normal free market event that's occurring?
Well, what I can tell you is that Congress is weighing a crackdown on companies that are going beyond what they see to be someone's constitutional rights or beyond the scope of federal law. So when you see these companies taking their own policy or making their own policy that runs counter to federal law, that's probably going to get them in a little bit of trouble. And we're seeing Congress take up that issue. But what's interesting is you have to look at what's driving this. So there was a study done by Global Strategy Group that says 81% of Americans expect corporations to take action on political issues within 24 hours. That's not a lot of time. You also have to look at what millennials and the factor they play in this in social media. There are tons of viral social media campaigns with hashtags urging companies to take a stand on issues, blacklisting companies if they don't. So 46% of millennials actively research what political stances companies have before they decide to give them their business. But there are critics who look at this and say, where are we headed? Is this a sustainable thing to do? Right. And so that's something that, of course, Congress is going to have to look at as well.
Well, look, private business is one thing, but then you're dealing with the banks, as you've noted in your piece, that get taxpayer dollars that are propped up, especially after the mini crash in 2007 and 8, as they're going against a civil right, against a constitutionally protected right, is an entirely different dynamic. If you don't like the Second Amendment, engage politically, right? This is something very different, and yes, is extremely worrisome. Great job. And thanks for reminding everyone of all the other kinds of things that are going on out there that we need to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Thanks, Tammy.
All right. Well, again, that is Hillary Vaughn from Fox Business.